Hey guys, Mr. Shaw back again. So I sat here for like 5 minutes trying to think of something funny to do, or like some way to start this video, and I couldn't come up with anything. Thought I could like maybe give you a tour of my house, but I figured there's no need to depress you before we start talking about the election of 1944 and the war in Europe. So yeah, we're just gonna get straight to it. I meant to put this in the last episode of Shaw's TV, but I forgot, and that video was already like a million years long, so I decided I'd go ahead and throw it in here real quick. Again, talk about the election of 1944. Again, this is the, I'll go ahead and get you set up here. Franklin Delano Roosevelt is going to go run for a fourth time again, and he is going to win. And the most important part about this election is who he picks as his vice president. He does not pick the same person to be his vice president. He chooses Harry Truman to be his vice president, and that is a very important decision because Harry Truman didn't have a whole lot of experience. Again, he's from Missouri actually, but other than that, he really didn't have a whole lot going for him. But again, Harry Truman is he's gonna do the best he can. But again, that is a very important selection that will become relevant very shortly. The Republicans choose Thomas Dewey to run for president. Again, both support the New Deal, both support the foreign policy. Again, at this point, guys, the New Deal has been ingrained now for 12 years. America has been at war now for almost for 3 years. Again, you're not really going to win an election if you come up and you're saying, oh, all this stuff is bad, the New Deal is awful, the war is awful, that we're fighting to get revenge against Japan is awful. Again, you're not going to win if you do that. So again, both of them are going to support that, and the truth of the matter is that Thomas Dewey didn't really have a lot to offer. Again, he's pretty much he's offering the same thing as FDR, and we know FDR has been around for 12 years. He has done it already. We trust him, and we're in one of the most horrible wars that we've ever been in. So Americans are not going to want to change leaders at this very pivotal time in American history. And FDR does win another landslide. So again, the electoral vote you see is kind of getting closer and closer. It's 53.5% to 46%. The electoral vote, again, he blows it out of the water, again, winning 81.5% of the states. So again, he wins his fourth and final term. Again, he will not live to see out the end of this term. He really doesn't even live to see, I think he lives maybe a year to see a year of it. But again, we'll get to that. Spoiler alert. Sorry, I should say that ahead of time. Oh, now you're depressed. Okay. Anyway, we're going to get to the war in Europe. So when the Allies were trying to figure out how best to beat Germany and the Axis powers, they're thinking of, well, Germany's too strong. They're too good at defending their own borders. So where are the Axis powers weak? Well, there's going to be two theaters. They're going to fight in the Pacific and they're going to fight in Europe. But the weak part of the Axis powers in Europe is definitely Italy. All right, so that's where they decide to start their attack. So that's what happens first. Is Great Britain and the United States, they decide to attack German forces in southern Italy. Again, they are going to, and again, I'm skipping a really big part of the war, that happened in North Africa, because again, we don't really have a whole lot of time to talk about it. If you are interested in that, again, you can talk about, or you can look up General Rommel, and he's also known as the Desert Fox. Again, he led German forces in Africa, and he was eventually defeated by the Allies, the United States, and the British forces. But again, we're going to kind of skip a little bit past that. So anyway, they're going to attack forces in like German forces in southern Italy, and Churchill is going to. They think that if they go all out against Germany, that the Allies are going to get crushed. Now, this is going to make Stalin really mad because Stalin has been fighting against Germany now for almost 3 years. And he has not, again, and I told you a couple of videos ago that the Russian army and the Soviet Union army was very ill-equipped. They were not able to provide their forces with enough equipment. And again, it was a miracle that they even were able to win at the Battle of Stalingrad and push Hitler back out of Russia. And again, the only reason they did that was because of the horrible Russian winter. So again, Stalin's really mad. He's still having to fight the Germans single-handedly. But this invasion of Italy is going to lead to the end of the line for Benito Mussolini. They are going to overthrow him. He's actually going to escape out of Italy for a little bit. He is found, though, and his story ends very tragically. He is actually captured, and he is hanged in front of. They do a public hanging of Benito Mussolini because they were so upset with him and the things that he had done to try to hang on to power. And his body was was left in the public square, and people would just come and spit on him and beat his body after he was dead. But anyway, with Mussolini out, Italy actually switches sides and they go to the Allies. Now, again, they're really not going to be able to do a whole lot, to be honest with you. But they are going to flip sides again, and now they are no longer with the Axis powers. So the only Axis powers that remain are Germany and Japan. So this is going to lead to preparing a second front. After we win again in Italy, the Allies are going to they're going to want to move. They're going to want to try to focus on winning France back. So this is going to be led by General Dwight Eisenhower. Dwight D. Eisenhower again, he is very important because he is going to become a future president. We'll talk about him a little bit later. And he plans this massive amphibious landing on the French coastline. Amphibious just means, again, water and land. And so this is the largest invasion ever planned in history. They were planning to invade on 5 different French beaches. And they were all doing this simultaneously in an attempt to win Paris back. They used diversions, deceptions, to try to keep the Germans guessing as to what the actual location of the invasion was. So they would have forces at all 5 beaches, but the main force were going to be kind of mixed into 2 or 3 of those in order to again keep the Germans guessing, so that they would be able to catch them off guard and get into France and then start winning parts of France back in an attempt to get back the capital, which was Paris. And again, so here you see, again, this is Great Britain right here. And you see that they are going to be traveling from, from many different areas in the south of Great Britain, and they're going to be landing on 5 different beaches. And again, they talk about them they call them Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword, and they're all going to be, really, really important. But I believe Omaha is where a lot of the action happened, and that is, this was their first real attempt to break into France, and then again, like I said, they are going to try to, work their way east to try to get to Paris. So the other name for this is called Operation Overlord. So if you want to make a note to yourself, again, Operation Overlord and D-Day are the exact same thing. So D-Day / Operation Overlord takes place on June 6, 1944. And again, they call it D-Day. What's interesting about that is in the military, they use the word D-Day as that basically just means like deployment day, or like the day that a specific action is going to start. But this one was so famous that they started calling it that, and the name kind of has just stuck throughout history. So again, this is a D-Day, Operation Overlord, same thing. Anyway, this is a successful landing. They successfully land on the beaches of Normandy, and it's going to end up leading to the French liberation from Nazi control. And that's really important because Germany and Hitler had become so confident, and they had won so many victories, that by the time that we get to 1944, they had suffered the major defeat in Stalingrad, at the hands of the Russians, and now in 1944 they had suffered the loss of Operation Overlord. So again, Hitler he tried to do too much, and he spread himself too thin, and he was not able to to kind of recapture all of Europe as he wanted to. So starting now after Stalingrad and after Operation Overlord, the Germans are going to kind of finally start being pushed back into Germany. Imagine this is Germany. Okay, they had spread out all over Europe, Okay, and they had taken a lot of land. But now that they have had both, like the two major defeats are going to be Stalingrad and Operation Overlord, and these are going to start pushing them back into Germany, and this is going to be kind of spell the beginning of the end for the for Hitler's empire. So the last major offensive move from Hitler was called the Battle of the Bulge, and what you need to know is this was a massive push to try to get land back, or get parts of France back from the Allies. They are going to battle in the Ardennes Forest in December and January of 1944 and 1945 respectively, and that is during winter. So that's going to be, again, that's going to really lead to a lot of problems. Again, you see here a picture, again, of soldiers, again, like with all the snow around and then with the dense forest around them as well. Again, this was a very important battle. Again, this is the last major offensive from Germany. Anyway, that's what I said. So December 1944, this is a massive German counterattack after getting kind of pushed back into Germany. There was 3 weeks of fighting, and the Allies actually were pushed very, very far back into France. But eventually, the Allies are going to be able to successfully defeat Hitler and win the Battle of the Bulge. And at this point, the war is pretty much over, at least in Europe. Again, we're still going to have to win in the Pacific against Japan. But again, this is pretty much the end of the road for Hitler, and that's what I had here in my last bullet. It spells the inevitable defeat for Germany. Again, the people, the Allies are going to be able to basically walk into Germany, walk into Berlin now, and they're going to have to take Berlin street by street. But again, they will eventually be able to take it back. So the end of this, Germany is going to surrender actually on May 8th, 1945. The Soviets are going to be able to capture Berlin on the 1st of May, 1945, and that was after Hitler actually commits suicide on April 30th. Again, in class we will watch a video. It's called, or it's part of the Days That Shook the World, and it's talking about Hitler's final hours. And it'll kind of talk about his decision, the defeat of the Germans as the Soviets were coming in and being able to take Berlin back. So there's two different days that you need to remember. Again, one is VE Day, which means Victory in Europe Day, and that is going to be again this one right here, May 8th, 1945. You want to draw an arrow to that. Again, you're not going to need to know the date. You'll just need to know that VE Day stands for Victory in Europe Day. Okay, so I want to talk just a couple more things here. I want to talk about the Yalta Conference. The Yalta Conference is going to be comprised of the three major powers that were the Allies. That's going to be the United States, Great Britain, and then the Soviet Union, led by Franklin Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, and Joseph Stalin, respectively. They are going to meet at the city of Yalta on February of 1945. And again, so you'll notice that I'm going back here a little bit. So things in February are going, by the time February rolls around, again, the Battle of the Bulge is over. All the Allies pretty much know that they are going to win this war. So they meet at Yalta to decide the post-war fate of Germany. So what they decide at Yalta, and this is really important here, you're going to want to make sure you put a star by, just a big star, make sure that you understand what this is. Again, they are going to split Germany into 4 different zones of occupation. So all 4, and again, I always only told you 3, but there's the 4th one is France. So the 4 zones, so United States, Great Britain, the Soviet Union, and France are all going to have a zone in Germany. Also, they're going to split Berlin up into 4 different zones because the Berlin zone was going to be the Soviets' zone. And they thought that was unfair that the capital of Germany would be in the Soviet zone, so they decided to split up Berlin as well. They also agreed upon the basis of the United Nations. They thought that since we've seen all these horrible things happen, and we realize that we really do need a League of Nations, something that's going to help prevent wars in the future, but not the League of Nations because that was not enough. So we're going to need to have something that's going to help us prevent wars in the future that needs to be more powerful. And they agreed upon that at Yalta. And then finally, the Soviet Union promises to join the war against Japan in the U.S. or for the joined the U.S. in the war against Japan, because again, the Soviet Union is fairly close to Japan in that area, and so that again, they are going to help the United States, and that will become relevant shortly. But sad news: we have the death of a president. FDR is going to suffer a stroke in early April 1945. Again, he had been president at this time for 13 years. And he is going, so he had actually only been in office, for, 3 months. So, so he only actually got to, only was a president in his fourth term for about 3 months. And he actually died 3 weeks before Hitler. And again, that's just kind of a weird thing in history that you see. They both got power at the same time, and they both died, really quickly, right around each other. And again, you see, like, how important these two men, again, Hitler and FDR, were to influencing world events. Again, FDR trying to influence in a positive way, and Hitler more in a negative way. But again, he did do a lot of things. He did help a lot of Germans when he was coming to power. But again, there were a lot of really terrible things that he had done. And again, Harry Truman, pictured here, he is going to take over for FDR. And so FDR is really important for a number of reasons, but mainly, again, one of the main ones is because he's the only president to win 4 terms, and very soon after that, the Congress decides to pass the 22nd Amendment, which says that a president can only serve 2 terms in office. So that's really important there. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and stop. We're going to pick up with the war in the Pacific and then the end of the war in the next video. So, thanks for watching. See you guys soon.